Hi guys. So today, for the first part of the week, we are going to be working on evaluating expressions for a given number. So I did want to just kind of go back over. Um, I did just want to kind of go back over what we did last week. So starting with combining like terms. So remember that you always just want to match the terms. So the x's go together. And if there's no number in front, it's going to be just like having a 1 there. So the x's will stay the same, and I'm just going to add -9 plus 1, and that'll give me -8x. The next one, just the constants or the numbers that are by themselves, just got to add those together to get -4. So that's combining like terms. Then you have distributing. So that is where I'm going to take whatever is outside the parentheses and multiply it by the numbers inside. But I have to multiply it by everything on the inside. So -6 times 8x is going to be -48x. And then -6 times 2 is going to be -12. But then I'm done because I can't combine those because one has an x and one doesn't. Another example, whenever you have extra stuff, you're going to distribute first. So I'm going to do the parentheses first. So I'm going to multiply by 9. Okay, so I'm just going to bring down the -10. And then 9 times 2 gives me 18. And I got to keep that a attached. And then 9 times -7 is, sorry, my nose. -63. There we go. Come on, Marina. So since I have several terms, I am going to combine like terms. So I only have the one term with an a, so I'm just going to bring that straight down. But then I have 2 that are constants. So I want to add those together to give me -73. So cool. And then one more from like last week. This is where I'm going to have to distribute twice and then combine like terms. So I'm going to the 2 times everything just in the parentheses after the 2. So that'll become 20n plus 6 because I multiplied 2 times each. And then I'm going to multiply -10 times both of those because remember, if you have a minus, it's just like having a negative. So that becomes -90n minus 40. So now I want to combine like terms, so my n's will go together. So 20 plus -90 will give me -70, and the n doesn't change. And then last I have my 6 and my -40, and I add those together to get -34. So that's the review of like what we were doing before. Next, I just want to make sure that we're good on vocab. So a variable, if you remember, it's a letter that represents or stands in for a number. Why can't I spell? Represents a number. That number can be known or unknown, but it's gonna just like stand in. It's like a placeholder for a specific number. A coefficient is a number that's attached to a variable. So if you have like 5x, x would be the variable, 5 would be the coefficient. A constant is a number by itself. And then the word evaluate, it's really important that you guys know what directions are asking you to do. So many times you'll get prompts like this and people are like, oh, I just solved it, right? And it's like, no, technically what you're doing is evaluating. So when you evaluate, it's where you plug in, you usually plug in. Evaluate can also mean just like computing and compute, meaning just like if it's adding, you actually add them together. You actually, do the thing it says to do. So when we are evaluating, it is important to remember the order of operations. So, like, that's your PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, whatever. But it's parentheses or anything that would be considered a grouping symbol, which can be brackets, it can be a radical, but right now we're just dealing with parentheses. Then you have your exponents. That would be the next thing that you would do, followed by multiplication and division. Multiply, divide. And these two, multiply doesn't always come before divide. It's just, you just go from left to right. Multiplying and dividing, like, they're equal with each other, if that makes sense. And then the same thing with add and subtract. I keep doing that. Subtract. Okay. Those two are also just left to right. You don't have to add before you subtract. They kind of go together in the same step. So left to right. So hopefully y'all remember that. So when you are evaluating, we have these variables and they stand in for specific numbers that we already know. So I'm just going to rewrite my expression, because remember, an expression does not have an equal sign. It's not an equation unless it has an equal sign. So I'm just going to rewrite this without any letters, and I'm going to plug in my numbers. So I'm going to do 4, because x is 4. Then I'll bring down my minus parentheses, but instead of y, I'm going to put 3. And then I'll put over 3 because that was already part of it. And then minus, and instead of z, I'm going to put 1. Now, if you wanted to type this straight into a calculator, you would just have to make sure that the calculator knows order of operations. Like if you're using your phone calculator, it's not gonna tell you how to do it right. GeoGebra will. It's geogebra.org/calculator. Just FYI. But okay, so the first thing I want to do with order of operations is I want to do what's inside the parentheses. So this 4 minus, I'm just going to bring it down. Now inside the parentheses, I would divide first. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and then I'm just going to bring the rest of it down. Now next, I still need to finish off my parentheses. So 1 minus 1 is just 0, so this is 4 minus 0, which ends up being 4. Cool. Okay, and I got one more. For this, you would want to, same thing, I'm just rewriting it, but without the letters. I'm going to replace them with their numbers. So P, instead of P, I'm going to write 6. Then in parentheses, instead of this P, I'll put another 6, because I'm going to put 6 wherever there's a P. And then minus, and instead of M, I'm going to put 2. That whole thing goes over 6, and then I've just got a minus Q, and Q is 1. So the first thing I'm going to do here is my parentheses, but just keep in mind that fraction bar, if you have a bunch of stuff either on top of a fraction bar or on bottom, that's like a grouping signal. That's another thing. So I would do that before I divided. But anyway, I'm going to do parentheses. So I will have 6, and then 6 minus 2 is 4. And then everything else I'm just going to rewrite kind of down here. And then for the sake of space, I'm just going to come over here. So next I would do the top of the fraction. I'm going to do 6 times 4 is 24. Then next I would divide. So 24 divided by 6 is 4. And then 4 minus 1 is 3. So that's all evaluating is. So really the idea here is just to get used to variables and what they mean, and getting used to them as representative for numbers and stuff. So anyway, yeah.